Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night, Vieira V Tate. Once again, there are no injustices on this card at all. Every fighter who won was supposed to win. The entire card was filled with decisions, which wasn't a bad thing. It was great. It was a great night of fights. We were bound to get one of those kind of cards where the entire card was just decision, up until Wood versus Talia, where in your head you were kind of thinking, this might get a finish. There might be like a TKO type finish here. And then, we were right. There was a finish there. And then the fights where you thought there was going to be a finish, no, decision. Everything else was a decision. But we move on. We're going to go straight to the most important bit. This show now should be called Honorable Mentions MMA, because the amount of injustices we've seen have diminished entirely. And I'm not going to say it's because of us. I'm not going to say it's because, I put this here and now everything has changed, but it's definitely, I think, probably, if I were to philosophize this, if that's even a fucking word, if I were to think about this, it's probably the fact that in the apex, I think everyone has gotten used to the apex, to where I think they've gotten it down to a T. In the beginning, there were a lot of injustices. There were a lot of bad scorecards, and if I were to think about it again, it's probably because they just weren't used to it. But now, I think they're used to it. And the scorecards are near perfect at this point. So there are no injustices, but we're going to go on to our first honorable mention, and that's Pinheiro versus Hughes. I had a 29-28 Pinheiro. With Pinheiro, I gave a 10-9 in the first and the second for her. The judges' scorecards, Mike Bill had it the same as me, but Eric Clone and Adelaide Bird had 30-27. It's not often that I disagree with two judges. Usually I'd point the finger to myself and go, maybe my scorecard was wrong. I'll just say it. I think both of their scorecards are wrong. I think both of their scorecards are wrong. I think that last round went to Hughes. Okay, in that third round, Hughes outstruck Pinheiro point blank. And I think their scorecards are wrong. I think Bird and Cologne's third round scorecard is wrong. So honorable mention to those two. Second honorable mention is Durden versus Mr. Universe Orichi. All right. Now you're going to see this in a lot of my scorecards, and sometimes I look at my scorecards sometimes, and I really think to myself that this happens a lot, where my scorecards are a little too perfect isn't the word, where they're too straight. I've noticed a lot of people's scorecards have to be curvy, or they have to be a little bit crooked. But there's a reasoning. Obviously, there's a reasoning. I think they won the round. That's why my scorecards look very 50-45-ish, very 30-27-ish. Obviously, not all of them, but certain fights. And that happened here. Durden versus Aoriqileng. I had a 30-27 Durden. And the judges had it differently. Eric Clone had a 29-28. Saudi Amato had a 29-28. Adelaide Bird had a 29-28. And all of them had the exact same scorecard, with them giving a 10-9 to Aoriqileng in the second. Now, in the second round, it was very close on the feet. I gave the edge to Durden. I felt Durden landed the more shots. That was my perception of how that fight went. I felt he landed the more shots, but all three judges had it differently. So you know what that means. Honorable mention for me. I most likely got that scorecard wrong. Listen, occasionally this happens. Now, as you know, I think my scorecard's right. I'm not gonna be, I want to be humble, but at the same time, I still want to make it known that I still think my scorecard is right. I do believe that Durden landed more shots. We'll touch on the me believing me over the stats in a moment, but yeah, honorable mention for me for that one. All right, we go to our third honorable mention, which is Garcia versus Levy. Another 30-27 for me. 30-27 Garcia. And the judges had it just a little bit different. Same thing here again. Saul D'Amato, Brian Minner, and Junichiro Kamijo all had it 29-28 the exact same way, with them giving Levy a 10-9 in the second round. In that second round, once again, both got both got 2 takedowns, and it was very close on the feet. With the edge to Garcia, I felt as though Garcia outstruck him in that round enough to win that round, even though both of them got 2 takedowns. I'll just say it again. Honorable mention for me. Most likely I got that round wrong. But I still feel as though I got that correctly, but it's fine. Honorable mention for me. Fourth honorable mention is Sabatini versus Lutz. I had it 29-27. With me giving a 10-8 to Sabatini in the second, 10-9 for him in the first, and then I gave it 10-9 for Lutz in the third. I gave it 10-8 because in the second round, Sabatini got a takedown with ground and pound and a submission attempt for 4+ minutes. It was a quick takedown he got, and he kept him there for basically the entire round. In my eyes, that's a 10-8. One judge saw that, Eric Colon. Saw that. I wasn't mad that the other judges didn't give a 10-8. As you know, I'm very stringent on the 10-8, so I don't really like giving up the 10-8s, but boom, I gave a 10-8. Eric Colon, that last round, sorry, I forgot to say this part, but that last round, though, was very close. The third round, where I felt like you could have given it either way. I gave it to Lutz, but in that third round, Sabatini had 2 takedowns. Lutz had 1 takedown. But Lutz had outstruck Sabatini. So, I felt like you could have given it to either person, honestly. All 3 judges had it 30, but Crosby had a 30-27, Adelaide Bird had a 30-27, and Eric Colon had a 30-26. So, no one really gets buzzed here. Then we go on to a fight that, during the broadcast there was a lot of, how is this a 30-27? We've had a lot of those, in recent memory. People bring up, and the fight I'm talking about is Grant versus Yanez. People bring up, Fiziev versus Green, or Venata versus Grundy as, just one judge veering way to the left and picking the wrong person who won. And the scorecard looks bad. But in this person's defense, and this person being Tony Weeks, me not liking Tony Weeks' scorecard, I really don't like Tony Weeks' scorecard. A lot of his scorecards I really don't like. But in his defense, Grant was so active this fight. I mean, Grant was just throwing that I'm not, surprised isn't the right word, but I'm not mad that this card is 30-27. You know, in most fights, you're kind of pissed. You're kind of like, how could a judge see that? How could a judge see that? But in this fight, I'm not mad that he saw it. Now, is it the right scorecard? No. But in a way, I don't want to say it's a bad scorecard. It's not the right scorecard, but it's not a bad scorecard. So I'm not too, like, pissy about it. Now, if Grant had won, I probably would have come in here and screamed injustice and went flailing and whatever. But I don't want to call this fight close, but it was very, for lack of a better word, it was very close in that effect. So let's break this down. So in the first, give 10-9 to Yanez. In the second, I gave it 10-9 to Grant. And then the third, I thought the third one was very close. I know the numbers, again, was, sometimes these numbers that the UFC puts out, I've said this many times, I just don't trust. There's been 3 fights on this card where the numbers have looked a certain way, but that's just not how the fight was going. We'll talk about that in a second. But I thought this last round was very close, Grant versus Yanez, and I gave that last round to Yanez. Obviously, I felt as though he outstruck him enough to win that round in that third, very close round on the feet. I felt like you could have given it to either person, honestly. I felt like you could have given, meaning the outcome of this fight would have changed. So disregard what I said about the injustice thing, but you know what I'm trying to say. I felt like that last round you could have given to either person, meaning the fight would have just swayed. We look at the judges' scorecards. Aoriqileng has it the exact same way my scorecard is. Same with Junichiro Kamijo. Tony Weeks is the only odd man out. But if he had just changed that first round, because in the first round it was very obvious that Yanez had outstruck Grant. It was, very obvious. I don't know how. It is what it is. But the 30-27 makes it look bad when it's not really that bad. We move on to the next one. Probably everyone's favorite fight on the card. Not everyone's favorite fight, but a really nice fight. Really nice fight on the card. Chiesa versus Brady. I had this 29-28. With that last round being very close, I'll explain in a second. I had it 10-9 for Brady in the first and the second, and a 10-9 for Chiesa in the third. That third round was very close. Very close. Chiesa outstruck Brady on the feet. Both had a takedown. Obviously, Brady had that takedown in the middle of the round, kind of held him there for a little bit with a little bit of ground and pound. And Chiesa had a reversal and gave some shots at the end. Enough there, and him outstriking Brady on the feet in that first half of the round, enough for him to win that whole entire round. Obviously, the other judges see it a little they see it the exact same way. Aoriqileng, Douglas Crosby, Junichiro Kamijo, they see it the exact same way I saw it. So there's that. I just wanted to highlight the close rounds there. You could, if someone gave this a 30-27 for Brady, I wouldn't squeal as much. I really wouldn't squeal. Now on to the fight that probably has me the most heated. Last honorable mention, Vieira versus Tate. Now, let's start this off by, if you've been through the catalog, you know that one of my favorite fights is Vieira versus Tate. Is Vieira versus Kunitskaya. And you know why that fight is important to me. Because in that fight, Vieira took down Kunitskaya and held her there. And after the fight, she thought she won because she held her there. Instead of giving out ground and pound, instead of being active in that position. All right? The judges that night, and by the way, the judges throughout the entire history of the Apex have established that if you are active on the ground, you're going to win. We're going to add more credit to the takedown if you're active on the ground. You can't just take people down and hold them there. Like tonight, a lot of takedowns. But those people were active. They didn't just hold and lay on them. They were active. And the only time the inactivity of a person who gets the takedown doesn't matter is if the person on bottom isn't hitting you. If the person on bottom is just laying there and the person on top is also just laying there, well, then the takedown is a takedown and you win the round. But let's go over this fight. Because this fight, it almost made me... I felt gaslit. I felt like somebody was fucking with me. So let's start from the top. I gave this a 50-45. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, it's 50, how do you get a 50-45? Hold on a second. Here's how I get a 50-45. Okay? Round 1. Vieira outstrikes Tate. Point blank. Point blank. End of the round happens, and the numbers pop up on the screen. Because I'm watching this fight, and I'm counting strikes. And at first, it shows 17-11. 17-11 Tate up on strikes. I'm thinking to myself, no, this has to be incorrect. Did I miswatch this fight? So I run it back 5 minutes. And I watch it again. For the second time. I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth. I reel it back. And I watch it a second time. I didn't even go to the second round. I wheel it back. That's how shook I was. That I thought I was... Maybe I blinked too many times and I missed a couple punches. I was like, you know what, let me wheel it back. No, I was correct. Vieira won the round. I felt gaslit. Then the second round happens. Vieira outstrikes her again. Then they're bringing up the numbers and they're showing it like it's 29-28 on strikes. I'm thinking to myself, these aren't the numbers. Then, when they brought up the second round numbers, they then kept the first round numbers. It's not 17-11 anymore. It's now, 21 or 22-15? So, they updated the strikes. Still the wrong amount of strikes. So, let's just start here. In real time. Tate is down 2-0. Third round pops up. She's down again. I'm looking at my notes. She's outstruck again. Fourth round comes up. This one's going to piss me off the most. And I'll get to the judges' scorecards. Vieira outstrikes Tate again. Now, Tate gets a takedown. Now, here's what's important about this, right? Tate gets a takedown. She didn't do anything with the takedown. They got back up immediately and they went back to striking. We've seen this around 50 times. I don't know how many times I have to complain about this. We've seen this 40 billion times where it's a typical fight. Someone's getting outstruck. The person who's getting outstruck goes for a takedown. They get the takedown. They immediately hop back up and they continue being outstruck. But somehow, some way, some judges give them the round? It makes no sense. It actually makes no sense. But we move. Then we go to the fifth round where Vieira again outstrikes Tate. Cool, it's a 50-45. I don't think there's an argument. This is a 50-45 point blank period. Now we go to the judges' scorecard. Mike Bell, Saul D'Amato, Junichiro Kamiya. All three of them had the first two rounds. So for any of the scorecards out there that were showing Tate winning the first, no. Just no. Tate winning the second, no. So all three judges agree. First two rounds. Now here's where we get into a little bit of goofiness for some optical reason. Vieira still outstrikes Tate in the third. Mike Bell and Saul D'Amato give out a 10-9 to Misha. No. Honorable mention for the third round for those two. It's bad. We go to the fourth round. I'm just going to speed through these. We go to the fourth round. Okay. Where I talked about that takedown. It's not as though she delivered heavy ground and pound or any ground and pound at all. It's a regular routine takedown. She still gets up and gets outstruck on the feet. All three judges give... it's so inconsistent. All three judges then give her the round, give Tate the round. They give Tate a 10-9 in that round. All three. I've never seen this before because this is actually getting annoying. Where 1 week they will... and it's not devalue the takedown. 1 week they will correctly apply how the takedown should be valued, which is wrestler takes down a person. If you are active on top or bottom, depending if you have someone's back, and nothing significant happened on the feet, you will win the round. It's law at this point. It's established at this point. It's common knowledge at this point. This type of round happens 50 times on a fight night. And yet, today, they decide, hey, you know what? Even though Tate got outstruck on the feet, she won this round. I don't know how you see that. I don't know how you see that. It logically makes no sense, especially from these three judges, who I wish I could pull up the scorecards. But we have scorecards. They've written 50 billion scorecards. They have scorecards where there are rounds like these, and they've given them to the right person. Yet today, the wrong person got the right scorecard. Excuse me, the wrong person. Yeah. They shouldn't have won this round. And then finally they go back to normal. Finally they go back to normal, which is they all agree that Vieira won the 5th round, which is true. Junichiro Kamijo's card is the closest card to being perfect. But it's not perfect in my eyes. It should be a 50-45, no contest. No contest. And if you were to probably ask them, they would go, oh, well, the takedown, and she didn't do anything with it. But if you look at their scorecards from probably earlier in the night, hell, not even earlier in the night, if you look at their scorecards for weeks ago, there'll be a fight where someone's getting outstruck and get taken down. Someone is getting outstruck, and the person getting outstruck will take someone down and will lose that round. It's established. And all of a sudden, it's different now. There was nothing different. Yeah. We can acknowledge that the fight was different in the fact that every time Vieira landed, she would just sit back and just move. She would just sit back and kind of wiggle. Yeah, it's not good for like watching a fight, but still. She outstruck her. Oh, she got taken down. She got back up. And she was still outstriking her. Yeah, it was awkward movement, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Honestly, all three of them get an honorable mention. But the worst go to Saul D'Amato and Mike Bell, but all three get it for that round 4, and Saul and Mike for that round 3. That's all I got. Great night of fights. A lot of decisions. But I'm glad we got a finish. That's what mattered the most. I'm glad we got a finish, because just decisions after decisions after decisions can get hellishly draining. That's all I got. Thank you for listening, and God bless.